What if I told you that the fear that paralyzes you today is nothing more than an illusion created by your mind? Most people don't fail due to a lack of talent, they fail due to fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failing, fear of being judged. But there is an ancient philosophy that has destroyed those fears for centuries: Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus didn't write from a theoretical perspective. They faced wars, persecution, slavery, illness, and death. And yet, they were unstoppable. They discovered psychological principles so powerful that today neuroscience is just beginning to confirm their effectiveness. This video isn't cheap motivation. Here you will learn 10 applicable, practical Stoic lessons backed by current philosophy and psychology that will help you break your mental chains and unleash your full inner power. If you've ever felt like you're not living your best life, that there's something inside you that wants more but doesn't know how to break through the wall of fear, this content was created for you, because you didn't come to this world to survive, but to conquer. Lesson 1. Your fear is a lie. Master it with Stoicism. You feel that knot in your stomach, right? That panic that sometimes paralyzes you, that whispers horrible things in your ear. What if I told you that its real origin, its true root, is not out there, in what is happening or could happen, but in here? Yes, right there, in your own mind. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? We are used to thinking that fear is a direct response to things: the boss yelling, the bank account decreasing, that presentation you have to give, the uncertain future. We believe those events are the cause of our fear. But the ancient Stoics, some incredibly wise guys who lived more than 2,000 years ago, discovered something revolutionary, something that can completely change your life if you truly understand it. They realized that we rarely react to the event itself. No, we react to the story we tell ourselves about that event. We react to our opinion, to our judgment of whether it is bad, dangerous, terrible, or unbearable. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever felt awful about something that, looking back, wasn't such a big deal? Or the opposite, something that terrifies others leaves you unfazed? The difference isn't in the event, it's in the interpretation. The great Epictetus, a slave who became one of the most influential philosophers, summed it up masterfully. He said, "We are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us." Boom. That's the key to everything. The power is not outside, it's in your inner dialogue. That external event, the criticism, the possible failure, the uncertainty, is neutral. It's like a blank screen. You are the one projecting the horror movie onto it with your thoughts. Imagine you have to speak in public. The event itself is just that, you speaking in front of other people. Neutral. But then the mental movie begins. I'm going to make a fool of myself. They're going to laugh at me. I'm going to blank out. This is going to be a disaster. Those thoughts, those opinions are what generate the cold sweat, the racing heart, the urge to flee. It's not the audience. It's not the words you have to say. It's the catastrophic interpretation you're creating. The Stoics understood this perfectly. They realized that most of our suffering, especially the kind that comes from fear and anxiety, is self-inflicted. It's a product of our feverish mind imagining dreadful futures. Another Stoic giant, Seneca, a man who advised emperors and faced real danger, put it wonderfully: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. How many times have you spent sleepless nights worrying about something that didn't happen, or if it did, wasn't even half as bad as you imagined? We waste a brutal amount of energy fearing ghosts, shadows created by our own mind. And here comes the truly powerful part. If fear is born from our opinions and judgments, then we can change it. We have that power. We can't always control what happens outside. That's impossible. There will always be uncertainty, challenges, difficult people. But we can control how we interpret all of it. We can choose what story we tell ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, who wasn't just a philosopher but also the emperor of Rome, imagined the stress and fears he had to manage, left us a treasure in his meditations. He constantly reminded himself of the power of his mind. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Strength doesn't come from avoiding problems, but from strengthening your inner citadel, your ability to stay calm and rational even in the middle of a storm. How do you do this in practice? It's not magic, it's mental training. It's starting to observe your own thoughts as if you were a curious scientist. When you feel fear rising, stop for a second. Ask yourself, what am I telling myself right now about this situation? Is it an objective fact, or is it my interpretation tinted by panic? Am I exaggerating the real danger? What's the worst that could actually happen, and could I handle it? At first it's hard, of course. We're very used to reacting automatically. But every time you question a fearful thought, every time you examine it with the light of reason instead of being dragged by it, you weaken its power. You're retraining your brain. You're building that inner fortress Marcus Aurelius spoke of. Zeno of Citium, the founder of this philosophical school, laid the foundation by teaching that the key to a good life, a peaceful and fulfilled life, what they called eudaimonia, was to live according to reason and nature. An irrational fear, the kind based on distorted judgments, is precisely the opposite of reason. It's mental noise that prevents us from seeing things as they are and acting with wisdom. So next time fear knocks on your door, remember, it's very likely a ghost created by your own mind, an opinion disguised as a fact. Don't just open the door. Look it in the eyes. Question it. Disarm it with your reason. Ask yourself what you're telling yourself and choose to tell a different story, one more aligned with reality, one that empowers you instead of paralyzing you. Because in the end, as these wise men taught us, the greatest freedom is not the absence of external problems, but mastery over our inner world. By understanding that fear is, for the most part, a mental construct, you regain control. You stop being a victim of your emotions and become the architect of your own peace and strength. And that, my friend, is the first giant step to unlocking all that incredible potential inside you. Disarm that opinion called fear and start truly living. Lesson 2. Shield your mind, the power of imagining the worst. What if I told you that the key to being stronger, to feeling less fear when facing problems, is to imagine total disaster? Sounds completely crazy, right? It goes against everything we've been told. Think positive, don't attract bad luck. But what if that constant avoidance of the negative is actually what makes us weaker and more fearful? There's a mental technique, a powerful tool that the Stoics used thousands of years ago, which goes exactly in the opposite direction. And it's amazing how effective it can be. They called it premeditatio malorum, which sounds very serious, but basically means the premeditation of evils. Or, in plain terms, deliberately stopping to think about the worst things that could happen to you. I know what you're thinking. Why on earth would I want to do that? Are real problems bad enough without inventing more? That's the heart of the matter. It's not about being a downer or making your life miserable for no reason. It's training. It's like going to the mental gym to strengthen your resilience muscle. Think about how fear usually works. It's a vague, shapeless monster that lives in the shadows of our mind. We fear failing, losing everything, something bad happening, but we rarely stop to define exactly what that means. And since we don't define it, the monster seems huge, unbeatable. Premeditatio malorum turns on the light in that dark room. It forces you to look the monster in the face. How? By actively imagining those feared scenarios. What's the worst that could happen if you lose your job, if that relationship ends, if that project fails miserably, if you get sick? Visualize it. Don't just stop at how awful. Go deeper. What would actually happen? How would you feel? What would you have to do? What resources, internal and external, could you mobilize? What would remain intact even in that worst-case scenario? By doing this regularly and in a controlled way, several wonderful and counterintuitive things happen. First, you desensitize yourself. It's like an emotional vaccine. The first time you imagine something terrible, it hurts. But if you do it rationally as an exercise, the emotional load decreases. The scenario loses its ability to cause immediate panic because you've already visited it mentally. Seneca, a Stoic master who had to deal with exile and constant threats under Emperor Nero, understood this perfectly. He told us something like, "He who has rehearsed future evils in his mind takes away their power when they come." In other words, mental familiarity reduces the shock and the blow's strength when and if it comes. Second, you prepare yourself. By visualizing the problem, your mind starts searching for solutions or at least coping strategies. You reduce the likelihood of being paralyzed by surprise or panic. You know, even hypothetically, what steps you could take. This gives you a sense of control not over the external event that's often impossible, but over your response. And as Epictetus said, our real power lies precisely there, in our responses, judgments, and actions, not in what happens to us externally. Thinking about the worst helps you focus on how you would act, which is the only thing that truly depends on you. Third, and this is powerful, you begin to appreciate much more what you have now. By contemplating loss of health, money, loved ones, comforts the present lights up, you realize all the good things you take for granted. This exercise, far from making you bitter, can generate deep gratitude for the simple things in daily life. You value your morning coffee differently if you've spent 5 minutes imagining a future without it. And fourth, you gain perspective. Often, when you break down that worst-case scenario, you realize that although it would be hard and painful, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world. You discover you have more inner strength than you thought. You realize that many of the things we fear losing are external goods, as the Stoics called them, things that are preferable to have, but whose absence does not destroy your ability to be a virtuous and resilient person. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, constantly reminded himself in his writings that external obstacles could be transformed into opportunities to exercise virtue, patience, courage, justice. Premeditatio prepares you to even see the worst scenario as a possible, though difficult, arena to forge your character. Now, it's important to distinguish this from simple catastrophizing or excessive anxiety. It's not about getting trapped in a loop of worry. It's a deliberate, rational, and time-limited exercise. You spend a few minutes, maybe in the morning, contemplating a possible adverse scenario, analyzing your possible response, reaffirming your ability to face it, and then you let go and focus on living your day with virtue and purpose. Does it feel a little creepy at first? Maybe. But think of a firefighter training to enter a burning building, or a pilot in a flight simulator facing an emergency. They don't do it because they like danger, they do it so that if the worst happens, their mind is prepared, their reactions are calmer, and their actions more effective. That is the gift of premeditatio malorum. It doesn't make you invulnerable to misfortune, no one is. But it makes you much more resilient. It helps you build that inner citadel the Stoics talked about, a mental refuge of calm and reason that the blows of fate can't easily tear down. You neutralize the paralyzing power of anticipatory fear. You free up a huge amount of mental energy that was previously spent worrying about undefined ghosts. And with that recovered energy, with that clearer and stronger mind, you can act with more decisiveness, with more courage, with more serenity in the here and now. So next time a fear haunts you, don't run away. Dare to do this exercise. Invite that worst-case scenario for a mental coffee. Look it in the eyes, strip it of its imaginary power. Maybe you'll discover, as Seneca suggested, that by training for the worst, everything else starts to feel much lighter, much more manageable. You shield your mind not by avoiding darkness, but by lighting a rational candle inside it. And that is a powerful way to conquer your fears and walk through life with more confidence and peace. Lesson 3. Your only real power, the Stoic secret. Do you know how much vital energy, how many good moments, how much mental peace you waste every single day? Think about it for a second. What if I told you that probably 99% of your worries, your anger, your fears, are about things that, no matter how hard you try, you cannot change even a little bit? Sounds like an exaggeration, right? But stick with me, because here lies one of the most liberating ideas you'll ever hear in your life. More than 2,000 years ago, some bearded philosophers called Stoics, people who lived in times just as, or even more chaotic than ours, found a key, a distinction as simple as it is revolutionary, which is the foundation of almost all their thinking. And it's this: in life, there are things that depend entirely on us and things that do not depend on us. Period. The great Epictetus, a guy who started out as a slave and ended up as one of the most respected philosophy teachers, so he knew a thing or two about not having external control, summed it up brutally simply: some things are up to us, others are not. That's it. Seems obvious, doesn't it? But I assure you, most of us live as if it weren't. And right there, in that confusion, lies most of our suffering. What does depend on us? Our judgments, what we think about things, our intentions, our decisions, our impulses to act or not act, the effort we put in, our values, our character. Basically, our entire inner world and the actions we choose to take. That's our garden, our land, our kingdom. And what does not depend on us? Well, almost everything else. The weather, the global economy, what other people think of us, whether or not we get that promotion, whether we win the lottery, whether we hit a huge traffic jam, whether someone treats us well or badly, our long-term health, we can influence it, but not control it 100%, our own body in many aspects, and of course, the past and the future. The big problem, the source of our anxiety, our frustration, our anger, and our fear comes from mixing up these two categories. We live desperately trying to control things that are, by nature, uncontrollable. We get mad at traffic as if our yelling will move the cars. We obsess over the opinions of people we don't even respect. We get anxious over future scenarios that may never happen. We try to change others by force. Sound familiar? It's exhausting, it's pointless, and it robs us of peace. And at the same time, we often neglect the only thing that is completely under our control, our own mind, our reactions, our choices. The Stoics said, enough of fighting the universe. Radically accept what you can't change. I'm not saying you have to like it, I'm saying recognize that it is what it is. And redirect all that energy you waste fighting windmills toward your own territory. Obsessively focus on cultivating your inner garden. Work on your thoughts, your decisions, your actions. Be the best version of yourself within your sphere of control. And what happens when you do that? Something magical happens. You become free. You stop being a puppet of external circumstances. Your tranquility no longer depends on everything going perfectly out there, which never happens. Your peace begins to come from within, from knowing you're doing the best you can with what is actually up to you. Seneca, another heavyweight of Stoicism, insisted on this a lot. He knew that fortune is fickle, that today you can be on top and tomorrow at the bottom. That's why he said that wisdom lies in not depending on those external goods that can be taken from you at any moment. As he more or less said, the wise man does not consider as goods the things that can be taken from him. True wealth, true strength lies in your character, your virtue, your capacity for judgment, and that no one can take from you unless you allow it with your own judgments. When you understand and practice this division, because knowing it isn't enough, you have to live it, you become, in a sense, invincible. Not invincible to life's blows, of course not. You will still have problems, disappointments, pain, but you will be invincible in your core. Nothing and no one external will be able to force you to betray your principles, to lose your inner calm, to stop acting with virtue, unless you give them permission through your own judgments. Your inner citadel becomes impregnable. How to bring this into daily practice? It's constant training. Pause and ask, when facing any upsetting situation, an angry email, a hurtful comment, a plan falling apart, a fear showing up, stop for a second and ask yourself, what part of this depends 100% on me and what part doesn't? Be brutally honest. Accept and let go the external whatever falls into the not up to me column. Practice acceptance. It's not passive resignation like whatever, I don't care. It's recognizing reality as it is without fighting it. Let go of the need to control it. Take a deep breath and release it. Focus and ACT, the internal, pour all your attention and energy into what does depend on you. How will I interpret this? How will I respond or not respond? What virtuous action can I take now? What can I learn from this? How can I maintain my integrity and calm? At first it's hard, it's normal. We spend our whole lives trying to control the uncontrollable. But each time you do this mental triage exercise, you strengthen that stoic muscle. Every time you choose to focus on your response instead of complaining about the external, you gain a bit more inner freedom. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who wrote to himself during military campaigns, filled his meditations with reminders about this. He told himself over and over, this is just an external impression, not what I say it is. My task is to respond with justice, with temperance, with courage. That is up to me. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals or try to improve things in the world. Of course you should. Act, strive, pursue your goals, but do it with the clear understanding that the effort and the intention are yours, but the final result always has an uncontrollable external component. Work for the best, but be prepared to accept whatever comes without letting it destroy your inner peace. So there you have it. The Stoic secret for a life with less fear, less frustration, and more serenity and personal power. Stop wasting your precious energy trying to conduct the orchestra of the universe. Focus on playing your own instrument as well as possible. Tend your garden, because there, and only there, lies your true power and your true freedom. Start practicing this distinction today, and you'll see how, little by little, you regain the reins of your own life. Lesson 4. Transform pain into strength, the Stoic method. You feel pain, right? Physical, emotional, we all feel it. It's part of the package of being alive. What if I told you that feeling it is inevitable, that it will happen no matter what, but suffering because of it, staying trapped in that suffering, that, my friend, is a choice? Sounds intense, I know, but it's one of the most revolutionary and liberating ideas in Stoic thought. Let's be clear, life hurts. You fall and break something, you lose someone you love, you get fired from your job, a project you poured your heart into fails, you receive unfair criticism. Pain, difficulty, and discomfort are inevitable travel companions. The Stoics weren't naive, they didn't live in a fantasy world. They knew perfectly well that life can be tough and often painful. They didn't deny pain. But here comes the magic, the twist that changes everything. They made a brutally important distinction between pain and suffering. Pain is the physical sensation or the initial emotional event. It's the wound, the loss, the setback that many times we can't avoid. But suffering is the second layer we add on top ourselves. It's our mental resistance to what's happening. It's the story we tell ourselves about that pain. This is terrible. I can't bear it. My life is ruined. Why always me? This shouldn't be happening. It's that internal dialogue of complaint, of victimhood, of resistance, that's suffering. And that, the Stoics said, is optional. Seneca, a guy who had to navigate the turbulent waters of Roman politics and ended up quite badly because of it, but who left us pearls of wisdom, saw this very clearly. He said, difficulty strengthens the mind as labor does the body. What a statement. He didn't see difficulty as something purely negative to be avoided at all costs. He saw it as a gym for the spirit, as an opportunity to train and strengthen our mind, our resilience, our character. Does this mean you have to seek pain or enjoy it? Not at all. The Stoics weren't masochists. What they proposed was to radically change our relationship with discomfort and pain when they inevitably appear. Instead of collapsing and adding mental suffering, we can choose to see it as a test, as a challenge that, if faced with the right attitude, can make us stronger. How the hell do you do that? How do you stop suffering when something hurts a lot? First, with acceptance. And careful accepting is not resigning yourself like, well, it is what it is, nor does it mean you like what's happening. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is recognizing reality exactly as it is in this moment without mentally fighting against it. It's stopping the waste of energy in resisting the inevitable. It's saying, okay, this is happening. This hurts. This is the situation right now. That initial acceptance, paradoxically, reduces internal tension and, therefore, the added suffering. Second, by working on your interpretation. As Epictetus said, we are not disturbed by the facts themselves, but by our judgments about them. The initial pain is a fact, but if you add the judgment, this is unbearable and will destroy my life, you're throwing gasoline on the fire of suffering. On the other hand, you can choose to interpret this situation differently. This is very hard, but I can face it. This hurts, but it will pass. What can I learn from this shitty experience? What virtue can I practice right now? Patience, courage, strength? Changing the internal narrative is key to deactivating optional suffering. Third, by focusing on your response. When pain strikes, it's easy to get stuck in, oh no, oh no. The Stoic approach invites you to change the question. Instead of why me, ask yourself, now what? What can I do? What's the next constructive step, no matter how small, that is within my power? This gives you back a sense of agency, pulls you out of the passive victim role, and puts you in the driver's seat of your response. Maybe you can't take away the pain, but you can choose how to act despite the pain. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, had a powerful image for this. He said the rational mind is like fire. Whatever you throw into it, even cold things or obstacles, the fire consumes it and turns it into more flame, more heat. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, he wrote. In the same way, a mind trained in Stoicism can take difficulties, pain, setbacks, and use them as fuel to grow stronger, to grow, to shine brighter. Where others see a wall, the Stoic sees raw material to build something stronger within. Ausonius Rufus, another great Stoic who was exiled multiple times and knew hardship well, taught that facing difficulties with virtue was essential for training the soul. He didn't seek them out, but when they came, he used them as opportunities to practice courage and endurance. Now, it's important to clarify, this doesn't mean repressing your emotions or acting like you don't care. Of course not. Feel the sadness, feel the anger, feel the pain. They are natural human responses. The difference lies in not letting those emotions, filtered through negative judgments and resistance, turn into a suffering that paralyzes you and ruins your life indefinitely. Acknowledge the emotion, allow yourself to feel it, but don't fully identify with it or build a catastrophic narrative around it. How to start practicing this? When you feel pain or face a difficulty, observe, distinguish the pure sensation, physical pain, the initial emotion, from the story you're telling yourself about it, the suffering. Accept the sensation, don't mentally fight the fact that it hurts or is hard. Breathe. Acknowledge, this is here now. Reinterpret, ask yourself, is there another way to see this? What can I learn? How can I use this to make myself stronger? Look for the constructive angle, no matter how small. Act, focus on action. What's the next step, no matter how small, that you can take and that depends on you? Do it. It's not easy, it requires constant practice, like going to the gym. But each time you choose not to add mental suffering to inevitable pain, you become a little freer, a little stronger. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become someone capable of turning the lead of adversity into the gold of inner strength. So remember, pain will knock on your door, it's inevitable. But you decide whether to invite it to stay indefinitely, whether to roll out the red carpet of complaints and resistance, that's suffering, or whether to acknowledge it, learn from it, and use it as fuel to ignite your own inner fire. The choice, as unbelievable as it may seem, is yours. Lesson 5. Memento mori, your best weapon against procrastination. The best trick against procrastination? That almost magical force to stop putting off important things? It's something you usually avoid thinking about, something that makes you uneasy, your own death. Sounds dark, right? Even grim. But wait, because the Stoics, those masters of mental strength, turned this idea around in an incredibly powerful way. We live in a culture that hides death, that treats it like a taboo, something in bad taste. We want to be young forever, to live as if time were infinite. And right there, in that illusion of eternity, is where procrastination sets up its base camp. Why start today the project that excites you but also scares you? Why have that uncomfortable but necessary conversation? Why get in shape or quit that bad habit? Bah, you'll do it tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow, right? Well, no. And deep down, you know it. The Stoics didn't beat around the bush. They had a key phrase, a central concept, memento mori. Remember that you will die. Bam. Straight to the jaw. But here's the genius. They didn't say it to depress anyone or ruin your day. Quite the opposite. They used it as a wake-up call, as a shot of vital energy, as the ultimate tool to live a life with purpose and surprise. To defeat damn procrastination, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who wrote his philosophical reflections in the midst of military campaigns, realized how we fool ourselves. He observed people and himself and saw that tendency to live as if we were mortal. One of his key ideas, which still resonates today, is this: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. What a phrase. It's a brutal call to action. If you were aware that each moment could be your last, would you keep wasting time on nonsense? Would you keep putting off what really matters out of fear, laziness, or distraction? Awareness of death is not an invitation to despair, but to urgency. It forces you to ask, is this how I want to spend my limited and precious time? This task I'm avoiding, is it important to me, to my values, to my legacy, no matter how small? If the answer is yes, memento mori gives you a kick in the butt to get moving now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Because now is the only thing you're actually guaranteed. Another great, Seneca, dedicated an entire essay to this topic called On the Shortness of Life. And his main argument is devastating. It's not that life is short in itself, it's that we make it short. How? By wasting time. Worrying about nonsense, chasing empty pleasures, letting ourselves be carried by the current, and of course, procrastinating. He said something like, it's not that we have little time, but that we waste much of it. Life is long enough and has been given to us in generous measure for accomplishing the greatest things, if all of it is well invested. Memento mori is the constant reminder to invest well your time, not to lose it. How does this help you defeat procrastination in practice? First, it creates real urgency. That I'll do it later loses strength when you internalize that maybe there is no later. It's not to stress you out, it's to motivate you to make the most of the present. Second, it clarifies your priorities. Thinking about your mortality forces you to filter the important from the trivial. Do you really want to spend your hypothetical last hours endlessly scrolling or complaining about nonsense? Probably not. It helps you identify which tasks, projects, and relationships deserve your energy now because they align with what you truly value. Third, it gives you courage. Many times we procrastinate out of fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of not being perfect. But when you put those fears on the scale against the certainty of death, they become ridiculously small. What's worse, trying something and it going badly, or reaching the end of your life regretting that you didn't try because you were scared? Memento mori encourages you to be brave, to take risks for what matters. And fourth, it drives action. It turns the inertia of pushing things forward into momentum. Every important task you complete, every step you take toward meaningful goals feels like a victory against wasted time, like an affirmation of life in the face of mortality. How to use memento mori without falling into morbidity? It's not about wallpapering your house with skulls, although some Stoics did use objects as reminders. It's about a mental practice. A morning reminder, start the day with the awareness that this day is a gift, not a guarantee. Ask yourself, how will I use this time meaningfully? A filter for decisions. When you're unsure whether to do something important or put it off, apply the filter. If today were my last day, what would I choose? A prioritization tool. Use the awareness of limited time to identify the 2 to 3 most important things you want to achieve today or this week, those that truly move the needle in your life. Epictetus, with his focus on what we can control, would tell us that we do not control the day or the hour of our death, but we do control how we use each moment we are given until then. Memento mori is the tool that helps us exercise the control wisely, focusing our energy on virtuous and meaningful actions now. So don't see death as a grim enemy at the end of the road. See it as a silent advisor by your side, one that whispers in your ear, time is running. Live. Act. Don't waste this moment. Using the awareness of your mortality won't take away your desire to live, it will multiply it. It will push you to put excuses aside, to overcome laziness, and to get moving on what you know you have to do. Let memento mori be your fuel, not your brake. Let it remind you that every decision, every action, or inaction is weaving the fabric of your life, your legacy. Are you going to keep leaving the most important threads for a tomorrow that may never come? Or are you going to pick up the needle and start sewing now with intention, with courage, with the vibrant awareness that living is an urgent privilege? The choice, as always, is yours. Lesson 6. ACT with fear. Discover your stoic courage. Do you think being brave means not feeling fear? That courageous people are those movie heroes who go around without flinching? Forget that idea. They told you the story wrong, or at least they didn't tell you the Stoic version, which is much more real and honestly much more useful for your life. We all feel fear. It's a basic human emotion, a survival mechanism. Fear of failure, of rejection, of the unknown, of pain, even of public speaking. It's normal. The Stoics, those practical philosophers from ancient Greece and Rome, knew this perfectly. They weren't robots without emotions. They felt fear, they felt anxiety, they felt all the human messiness. But here comes the crucial difference, the shift that changes everything. For them, courage, what they called Andrea, one of their 4 cardinal virtues, had nothing to do with the absence of fear. Nothing. True Stoic courage consists of feeling fear and acting anyway. It means doing what is right, what is necessary, what your reason and values dictate, even if your legs are shaking or your stomach is in knots. Think about it. If you only act when you feel confident and fearless, what merit is there in that? Where's the strength in that? The true test of character, the real opportunity to grow and show what you're made of, comes precisely when you feel fear, when you have doubts, when the situation overwhelms you, but you choose not to be paralyzed by that feeling. Ausonius Rufus, an incredibly practical and brave Roman Stoic, he was exiled several times for staying true to his principles, expressed it beautifully. He taught us that it is precisely in those moments when your legs tremble, when you feel the most fear, where you have the golden opportunity to exercise virtue and show your true strength. Fear is not a sign to stop, it's an invitation to show your courage. Why is it so important to act despite fear? Because if you let fear rule, you become its slave. Fear starts dictating what you can and can't do, shrinks your world, limits your potential. It keeps you from taking necessary risks, pursuing your dreams, saying what you think, standing up for what's right. You stay trapped in your comfort zone, which often becomes a cage. Acting despite fear is an act of liberation. It's telling fear, okay, I feel you, you're here, but you don't get to make the decisions. I do, my reason does, my values do. Every time you do this, every time you take a step forward, even with fear, you take power away from fear and give it back to yourself. It's like going to the gym. Every repetition of acting with fear strengthens your courage muscle. Seneca, another Stoic giant, lived in dangerous times and understood well the need for courage not just in great battles, but in everyday life. He even said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Facing daily difficulties, getting up after a fall, holding to your principles when it's hard, all that requires bravery. And that bravery doesn't come from not feeling fear, but from the decision to act rightly despite it. He firmly believed the brave man considers his duty right, even if it is difficult. He perseveres in fulfilling it without giving in. The key is to persist in your duty, in what's right, even if fear is whispering for you to stop. Epictetus, the slave who became a philosopher, would give us another key here with his famous distinction. The initial feeling of fear, that physical reaction, we may not control 100%. It can arise automatically. But what we do control is our response to that fear. We control whether we give it our assent, whether we let it dominate us and dictate our action, or whether we choose to act guided by reason and virtue despite the feeling. That's where our power and freedom lie. Think of Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, facing wars, plagues, betrayals. Do we really believe he felt no fear? He surely did. But his meditations are full of self-reminders to focus on his duty to act with justice, with reason, for the common good, regardless of his fears or personal discomforts. His courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was not letting fear stop him from doing what he had to do. So how do we cultivate this kind of courage in our life? It's not a magic switch, it's constant practice. Acknowledge the fear, don't fight it. When it shows up, name it. Okay, I'm feeling fear/anxiety/nerves. Don't try to suppress it by force, that often makes it worse. Just accept it as a present sensation. Consult your reason and values. Ask yourself, beyond this fear, what is the right/necessary/valuable thing to do here? What does my best self tell me? Connect with your purpose, your duty, your principles. Take the first, small step. You don't have to jump off a cliff right away. What's the smallest action you can take right now in the right direction, even with fear? Do it. Light that first line, make that call, put on your shoes to go run. Action builds momentum and often decreases fear once you're in motion. Focus on the action, not the feeling. Put your attention on the task you're doing, on the doing more than the feeling. Fear might still be there in the background, like noise, but you choose what you turn the volume up on. Remember, it's an opportunity. Every time you act despite fear, you're training your courage. See it as a chance to get stronger, as Ausonius Rufus said. The goal is not to become an emotionless block of ice. That's neither realistic nor desirable. The goal is to change your relationship with fear, to stop letting it be your boss and make it, at most, a counselor you listen to, analyze rationally, and then decide whether to follow based on your principles. True strength is not in having no fear, but in mastering it, in being able to move, to act, to do what's right even when fear is present. That is Stoic courage. And the good news is that it's a skill you can train and develop. Every time you choose virtuous action over fear's paralysis, you're one step closer to unlocking your true potential and living a fuller, more meaningful life. So next time you feel fear, remember, it's not a mandatory stop sign, it's a yellow light inviting you to consult your inner compass and, if the direction is right, to press the accelerator of action. Lesson 7. Indestructible calm, how to stay serene in the midst of chaos. Have you noticed that some people lose their minds when things go slightly wrong, while others, even in the middle of real disasters, remain calm and clear-headed? That's not luck, nor something you're born with. It's a mental skill. It's a habit. And the Stoics were masters at cultivating it. We live in turbulent times. Bad news 24/7, economic instability, personal problems, stress, uncertainty, constant distractions. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, anxious, on edge. But the Stoics, who also lived in a time of wars, plagues, political murders, and literal slavery, developed a mindset that allowed them to stay calm, serene, focused, not because the world around them was calm, but because they had learned to calm their inner world. That's the key. Your serenity doesn't depend on what happens outside. It depends on the quality of your thoughts, your judgments, your inner dialogue. Let's take Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire in the world, but also constantly at war, surrounded by betrayals, facing personal losses, plagues, and unbearable political pressures. Yet in his meditations written for himself, you see a man striving not to lose his calm. One of his repeated phrases, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. That's the essence of Stoic calm. Remembering, moment by moment, that you can't control the storm outside, but you can master your internal rudder. The first great principle here is you don't have to have an opinion about everything. Epictetus said, "Things themselves don't disturb us, but our opinions about them do." And Marcus added, "If you're troubled by something external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, it's not the news, nor your boss's tone, nor the delay in plans that makes you lose your calm. It's the story you tell yourself about that event, the judgment you make, the emotional escalation you feed. So first practice, pause and question. When something triggers you, stop. Ask yourself, is this really as terrible as my mind says? Is it urgent, important, worth my mental peace? What would a wise and calm person do right now? That space of reflection is the doorway to serenity. Second principle, focus only on what depends on you. You can't control traffic, the opinions of others, your company's decisions, the economy. But you can control your attitude, your words, your actions, your breathing. When you focus your energy only on what you can influence, you let go of unnecessary anxiety and start acting with efficiency and inner clarity. It's not indifference, it's wisdom. Third principle, accept reality as it is, then act. Many people confuse Stoicism with passivity. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Stoic does not resign, they act, but they don't waste energy denying what is already happening. They accept that this is the situation, and from that calm acceptance, they choose the best possible action. Acceptance is not passivity, it's a launching pad for effective and serene action. Fourth key, breathe. Yes, literally. When the chaos outside threatens to become chaos inside, go back to your body. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic system and helps calm the mind. Marcus used to remind himself to return to the present, to the moment, to the breath. Now, this moment, this is all I have. That awareness helps disarm the mental hurricane. And fifth, daily reflection. The Stoics practiced journaling. They reviewed their day in the evening. What made me lose my calm? Why? How could I respond better next time? They weren't perfectionists, but they were committed to growth. You can do the same. 5 minutes at night to reflect, learn, improve. That over time transforms your brain and strengthens your inner calm. Imagine what your life would be like if you had that unshakable calm. If instead of reacting with anger, anxiety, or panic, you responded with clarity, with serenity, with firm but calm decisions. That's not a fantasy, that's a skill. You can train it. And the Stoics left us a proven roadmap. Don't wait for the world to calm down to find peace. Find peace within you, and from there, face the world with more strength and lucidity. That's Stoic serenity, not escaping the storm, but learning to be the eye of the storm. Lesson 8. Stoic habits that destroy fear. You know the thing you dread doing every day? Maybe waking up early when the alarm rings, working out even when you don't feel like it, studying that boring subject, or just tackling that work task you've been avoiding. Every time you do it despite the resistance, you're destroying a piece of your future fears. Yes, exactly. That small daily battle against your own resistance is much more than just checking off a task. It's building your armor against fear. It seems strange to connect today's discipline with tomorrow's fear, right? But the Stoics, those masters of mental toughness, saw the connection clearly. Fear of the future, fear of failure, fear of things going wrong, fear of losing control feeds on our current sense of weakness. It thrives on doubt about whether we'll have what it takes when difficulties arise. And what's the most potent antidote to that doubt? Evidence. The irrefutable proof you give yourself day after day that you are capable. Capable of doing hard things. Capable of controlling your impulses. Capable of keeping promises to yourself. Capable of persevering even when unmotivated. This is the essence of Stoic self-discipline. Don't see it as punishment, forget that idea. Discipline isn't meant to make life miserable. It's training. It's preparation. As Seneca, a man who knew hardship, said, difficulty strengthens the mind as labor does the body. Every time you choose to do what's right or necessary over what's easy or pleasurable, you're lifting weights with your willpower, strengthening your mental muscle. You're preparing your mind for life's inevitable storms. Because they will come. Epictetus, the wise former slave, emphasized focusing on our own behavior. His key idea, often summarized as be strict with yourself, lenient with others, isn't about being a tyrant to yourself. It's about taking responsibility for your character, your actions, your habits. It's about demanding that you live by your values, not betray yourself. Why? Because this reasonable self-expectation builds self-esteem, self-respect, and unshakable inner confidence. And someone who trusts their ability to handle things, to stand firm in their principles, leaves far less room for fear to take root. Think of it as building a wall, an inner fortress, what Marcus Aurelius called your inner citadel. Every positive habit you adopt, every act of discipline is a brick in that wall. Do you wake up early to meditate, study, or do something productive? Bam! A brick. Do you choose healthy food over junk food cravings? Thud. Another brick. Do you control your temper in an argument instead of exploding? Wham! Another brick. Do you save a little each month instead of spending it all on impulse buys? Click. A sturdy brick. Do you stick to your workout routine even when tired? Clang. A solid brick. Do you tackle that uncomfortable task instead of procrastinating? Tap. A well-placed brick. Day by day, brick by brick, you build a fortress. And when future fears arrive, economic uncertainty, health issues, career setbacks, criticism, they'll find you inside your citadel, not exposed to the elements. You'll have internal proof that you can endure, that you have resources, that you're stronger than you thought. This daily discipline attacks the roots of many specific fears. Fear of failure. Discipline teaches you to persevere, handle frustration, and focus on the process. It shows you can rise after falling. Fear of difficulty. By voluntarily choosing discomfort daily, like exercise or study, you vaccinate yourself against distress. When uninvited difficulty arrives, it feels less terrible because you're already familiar with effort and overcoming. Ausonius Rufus, another practical Stoic, insisted on this daily training, ascesis, as essential. Fear of lacking control. Self-discipline is the ultimate expression of self-control. It constantly reminds you that while you can't control the external world, you can control your own actions and reactions. Fear of weakness. Every act of discipline affirms your inner strength, your ability to choose reason over impulse. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, could have lived surrounded by luxury and indulgence. Yet, his writings reveal a rigorous routine, constant self-examination, and an ironclad commitment to duty. He knew this inner discipline was his anchor amid chaos. Here's the great paradox the Stoics understood so well. Many see discipline as a lack of freedom, a restriction. But it's the opposite. Indiscipline makes you a slave to cravings, laziness, fear, circumstances. Discipline, however, grants freedom. Freedom to choose your actions instead of being dragged by them. Freedom to pursue long-term goals. Freedom from the tyranny of fleeting emotions and impulses. Freedom from paralyzing fear because you know you've been training for this. How to start building this fortress? You don't need to become a Spartan monk overnight. Start small, choose one habit, one disciplined action you can maintain almost daily. It could be making your bed, reading 10 pages, walking 20 minutes, something manageable. Prioritize consistency, not perfection. Repetition is key. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just resume the next day. It's consistency over time that builds the wall. Treat yourself like someone you respect. Keep promises to yourself. If you decide to do something, do it within reason. This builds self-trust, a natural repellent to fear. Every small act of discipline today is an investment in tomorrow's peace. It's an active, powerful way to tell fear, you might come, but I'm preparing. I'm building my fortress, brick by brick. Don't underestimate the power of these daily battles. They forge a resilient character and let you face the future, not fearlessly, perhaps, but with confidence that you'll handle whatever comes. Lesson 9. Ironclad Mind, the Daily Stoic Training. Think of your mind as a muscle. Right now, being honest, is it couch and movie mode, seeking only comfort and avoiding effort? Or is it in the GYM, active, training, ready to lift weight and face whatever comes? Most of us, if we're not careful, turn our minds into soft shelters, hiding from life's difficulties. But the Stoics threw down a radical challenge. Your mind isn't a spa for relaxation, it's a training field. Your personal gym to forge the strength needed to navigate life. We love mental comfort, don't we? Avoiding hard thoughts, uncomfortable conversations, complex problems. We seek easy distractions, passive entertainment. And hey, some rest is fine. But if your mind is always in shelter mode, it grows flabby and weak. It unlearns effort. Then when life, as it inevitably will, throws you a curveball, a problem, adversity, wham, it catches you off guard, mentally unprepared, and you crumble or feel overwhelmed. Fear thrives because, deep down, you know you haven't trained. The Stoics had a very different view. They saw life not as a leisurely park stroll, but as something requiring preparation, effort, and skill. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, often compared it to wrestling or military service. He wrote something like, "Life is more like wrestling than dancing." He wasn't being a killjoy, he was reminding us to stay prepared, agile, mentally strong, because blows, blocks, and challenges will come. Your mind is your main tool for this fight. Better keep it sharp. So, what does training the mind Stoic style mean? It's not about Sudoku or memorizing facts. The learning is always good. It's specific exercises designed to strengthen your reason, resilience, and ability to act well under pressure. It's ascesis, constant practice. What exercises did they do and can we do? Visualizing difficulties, premeditatio malorum as covered earlier. Spend minutes daily contemplating possible future problems, losing a job, illness, facing criticism, not to stress, but to prepare mentally. It's like sparring with adversity in your head. Reduces surprise and lets you calmly think of responses. Practicing the dichotomy of control, train your mind to constantly distinguish what's up to you, judgments, actions, versus what's not, external events. This focuses mental energy only where useful, stopping waste. A daily exercise of sorting and focus. Challenging impressions. Don't believe your first thought or judgment, especially in tough situations. Question it. Is this true? Is it really that bad? Is there another way to see it? Epictetus hammered this. Examine impressions before accepting them. Like training a mental bouncer to ID shady thoughts. seeking voluntary discomfort, key, and Musonius Rufus was a big advocate. Do uncomfortable things on purpose, safely, cold showers, fasting hours, sleeping on the floor one night, resisting impulse buys. Why? To teach your mind and body that discomfort isn't the end. Builds resilience for life's uninvited hardships, like small discomfort vaccines. Remembering finitude, memento mori, keep in mind your time is limited to avoid wasting it on nonsense and focus on what matters. A perspective and prioritization exercise. Practicing virtue, actively seek daily opportunities to act with courage, do something scary, justice, be fair to others, temperance, control impulses, and wisdom, make rational choices. Every situation is training. As you see, the Stoic mental gym has a full routine. All great Stoics in some way insisted on this need for constant practice. Epictetus saw philosophy as daily life training, not theoretical debate. Seneca reminded us hardships are tests that strengthen, difficulties reveal what men are. An untrained spirit breaks, a trained one grows. What are the benefits of turning your mind into a gym instead of a shelter? Ironclad resilience, you bounce back faster and better. Things affect you, sure, but don't crush you. Clarity under pressure, when chaos reigns, your trained mind stays calm, analyzes, and makes smarter decisions. Less fear and anxiety, preparation reduces fear of the unknown. You know you've trained your response capacity. Transforming obstacles, problems become not insurmountable walls but chances to practice training and grow stronger. Marcus Aurelius' fire idea. Lasting inner peace, true calm comes not from no problems but from deep confidence in your ability to handle them. Training builds this. How to start your mental gym today? Dedicate time, like physical gym time, reserve daily minutes, even 5 to 10, for mental training, morning prep, or evening reflection. Pick an exercise, start with 1 to 2 Stoic exercises that resonate. Maybe practicing the dichotomy of control or morning negative visualization. Seek micro discomforts, identify small comfort zone exits and do them occasionally. Reflect and adjust, review progress. What works? What needs practice? Be your own coach. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Don't leave it abandoned on the couch of comfort. Treat it as it is, an incredible tool needing daily sharpening, care, and strengthening. Make mental training part of your routine. It's effort at first, like starting physical exercise. But over time, mental toughness becomes your new normal. Adversity stops being a catastrophe and becomes, well, part of the training. Greatness, living with virtue and resilience, stops being a distant ideal and becomes the logical result of daily practice. Start building that ironclad mind today. Lesson 10. The real fear, not living your potential. What's your biggest fear? Pause and think. Fear failure? Rejection? Spiders? Public speaking? I bet there's a deeper one we rarely dare face, the fear of reaching life's end, looking back and realizing you weren't who you could have been. That you left most of your potential unexplored, locked away because, why? Fear? Comfort? Always waiting for tomorrow? That, my friends, is the true existential terror. Studies and testimonials, like from nurses caring for the dying, reveal the most common end-of-life regret. It's rarely, I wish I'd worked more, or I wish I'd had a fancier car. It's usually something like, I wish I'd had the courage to live true to myself, not the life others expected. I wish I'd chased my dreams. I wish I'd expressed my feelings. I wish I'd let myself be happier. In short, I wish I'd lived my potential. The Stoics more than 2,000 years ago had this nailed. Zeno of Citium, the school's founder, left us a powerful idea: the greatest waste in life is failing to develop all you can become. What a line! It's not just wasting talent in skills or career, though that too. For a Stoic, our deepest potential lies in our unique human capacity, reason, virtue, social connection, inner fortitude. Our potential is becoming our best selves, wiser, fairer, braver, more disciplined. Not developing this, letting it atrophy, that's the real tragedy. Why do we do this? Why settle for less than we could be? Reasons vary, but fear often lurks beneath. Fear of judgment. What will others think if I try this? Speak my mind? Follow my path? Better stay quiet and conform. Fear failure. What if it doesn't work? What if I embarrass myself? Better not try so I can't fail but never succeed. Love of comfort. Leaving the comfort zone is scary and tiring. Easier to stay stagnant even if unfulfilled. Growth hurts a little. Constant distractions. We're surrounded by noise, trivialities stealing time and energy from what matters, or growth, as Seneca warned about wasting life. Lack of clarity. Sometimes we haven't stopped to ask who we want to be, what our values are, what potential we want to fulfill. We drift. Against all this, Stoicism isn't a passive philosophy of endurance. It's a radical call to action. It shouts, wake up, take charge. You have an incredible capacity for reason and virtue. Use it. Develop it. Don't settle for a mediocre version of yourself out of fear or laziness. Epictetus, emphasizing our power of choice, Proherasis, wrote this: our main life task is to nurture and exercise this ability to choose well, aligning actions with reason and nature. Living your potential means using this power fully every day. He'd ask, are you using your reason today to be better, act virtuously? Or are you letting fear, desire, or others' opinions puppet you? Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, constantly pushed himself to rise, fulfill his duty as a human and emperor, avoid vanity, and focus on contributing to the common good. He knew his potential was tied to performing his cosmic role with virtue and reason. He reminded himself, don't waste the rest of your life on useless thoughts about others. Focus instead on the task nature assigns you, on what you're here for. Seneca, ever practical, urged us to seize time, not postpone life. Don't wait for retirement or someday to start truly living, cultivating wisdom, becoming who you want. The moment is now. For a Stoic, being true to yourself, living your potential, means being true to your rational and social nature. It means daily striving to cultivate virtues. Wisdom, see clearly, make good decisions. Justice, treat others fairly, contribute to the common good. Courage, do right despite fear, face difficulty. Temperance, self-control, moderation, no slavery to impulses. Living your potential is working on these daily. How to start? Ask yourself, am I proud of how I'm living? Is there something important I'm avoiding out of fear? What tiny step can I take today to align with who I aspire to be? Define your values. What matters most? Honesty? Learning? Connection? Courage? Let principles guide actions. Act, don't just think. Stoic philosophy is practical. Reading isn't enough. Take action. Start that project, have that talk, make that change. Even a micro step. Embrace discomfort. Growth is rarely comfortable. Fear, doubt, effort, normal. Accept them as part of the process. Fear of physical death is natural. But perhaps the deepest fear, the one that should light a fire under us, is the fear of a life-death passing through without spreading our wings, without giving our best, without becoming who we were meant to be. Don't let that fear paralyze your future. Use it as fuel now. Let the idea of looking back with regret push you to make brave choices today. Let it motivate you to overcome laziness, face fears, and invest time and energy in what truly matters, becoming, day by day, the wisest, fairest, bravest, and fullest version of yourself. That's your greatest challenge and adventure. Go for it. If you made it here, you've taken the first step, facing fear with a stoic mind. Now the question is, will you let fear dominate you again? Or will you use these lessons to break the mold and live like you're unstoppable? Remember this always. Your greatest enemy isn't the world. It's your fear facing it. Let me know in the comments which of these 10 Stoic lessons resonated with you the most. Which one are you going to apply starting today? I'm reading everything and I'll respond to the comments that show real transformation. Subscribe if you want more brutal content about Stoicism, mental power, productivity, and philosophy to conquer your life. Like if this gave you courage, and share it with someone who needs to destroy their fears today. Because you already know, your time is now, and life doesn't wait for those who doubt.